to speak on this topic. But let's go back a little bit and look at the history of modern day Yemen. And the reason I'm leading you up with the Yemeni story is for you to understand what the Saudis have been doing. So the Zaydis and the Ottomans. So the Zaydis and the Ottoman, and during this period, the Ottomans had two fundamental interests to safeguard in Yemen: the Islamic holy cities of Mecca and Medina. Remember that Yemen, straddled all the way to north. Most of the territories that the Saudis have today used to be part of Yemen. All that territory used to be part of Yemen before the creation of Saudi Arabia, and even before the 18th century, late 18th century or thereabout. All of that used to be part of Yemen. So, but the Islamic holy cities of Mecca and Medina and the trade routes with India in spices and textile, both of which were threatened and later virtually eclipsed by the arrival of the Portuguese in the Indian Ocean and the Red Sea. In the early part of the 16th century, Hadim Suleiman Pasha, the Ottoman governor of Egypt, was ordered to command a fleet of 90 ships to conquer Yemen. The country was in a state of incessant anarchy, discord, and Hadim Suleiman Pasha described it by saying, "Yemen is the land with no lord, an empty province. It will not only be possible but easy to capture, and should it be captured, it will be master of the lands of India and send every year a great amount of gold and jewels to Constantinople." So basically, this is the background. And the reason I'm loading you up with this to understand the history of Yemen and the role that the Saudis played. Most of the territory that you see today in Yemen, that the Saudis have, particularly in the south of Saudi Arabia, was originally Yemeni land up until the Ottomans were kicked out, or right before that period. And we can go far back as the Umayyad and the Abbasid. Yemen have always been an important place because of the strategic positioning and also because of the holy cities. Like I mentioned, Mecca and Medina, these two places were originally part of Yemen. Saudi Arabia, the name from Al Saud family, created in the 30s. And somehow, these guys are somehow the guardian of the earth. I mean, none of you is really looking at what they are doing in the region. They are enabling. I mean, I don't see the difference between the Israelis and the Saudis. The only difference that you guys think in your head is that, oh, well, they are Islamic and they are brothers. You see, the holy sites are there and they have all this money. So you have cousins probably that are working in Saudi Arabia and nobody wants to speak on it. But I'm willing to do that today, and I will give you a complete breakdown in some areas that the Saudis and what the Saudis have been doing in the region. So let's go further in the modern history. And this was during the reign of Hadim Suleiman Pasha. This was during the dying days of the Ottoman Empire. Now, the reason I'm explaining this is because after the Ottoman, the Brits came in place after the First World War, and they continued to play a role. But before that, the Brits were also there because they're also interested in the trade route that led to India. Most of them were going to India for textile trade, and they were going there as well to buy spices and so on and so forth. So they needed southern Yemen, what you call Aden today, because of the Bab al-Mandab. So Britain had a footprint there and supported radicals, supported the government. And by the way, if you go to Yemen today, they will tell you, they know their history very well. They say most of them in the south of Yemen are Jews from Morocco, Muslims from Morocco, remnants of the Ottoman Empire, a lot of people that the Brits brought. So these guys are distinct from the Yemeni people, the real Yemeni people in the north. In Sada, in Hudaydah, in Sana'a. These are the people of Yemen. These are like the main original inhabitants of Yemen. Those of them that were brought in the south are invaders. They are outsiders. And they have mixed their blood with a lot of Yemeni people through marriage and so on and so forth. So these guys are foreigners. They are occupiers. But nobody's really paying attention to these details because this is not the part that most people are interested in. Most people are not interested in this conversation because either they don't know about it or they don't really want to. But let's go in details and explain this. So Imam al-Mutawaki Yahya Saraf ad-Din ruled over the northern highlands including Sana'a, while Aden was held by the last Tahirid Sultan Amir ibn Dawood. Hadim Suleiman Pasha stormed Aden in 1538, killing its ruler and extended Ottoman authority to include Zabid in 1539 and eventually Tihama in its entirety. Now, Tihama you see today is close to the Bab al-Mandab. Is a town. It's also called Tihama or Tihama in the Red Sea coastal plain in the Arabian Peninsula from the Gulf of Aqaba in the south. So let's go further down with it. The reason I'm giving you this background is for you to understand how the Saudis eventually got involved in it, supported the British, and during the time period between 1930 to the 80s, liquidated a lot of Yemeni people. They slaughtered them. So this is not just about Mohammed bin Salman. This has always been the case with Saudi Arabia. Why are they not called out in the region? I'm asking you guys in the Middle East, the Arabs, the Turks, most of you in the Middle East, why are you guys not calling a spade and understanding that the reason why all of this is happening is because Saudi is a very important country, it's a very powerful country. A lot of people go there for Hajj, and there's a lot of respect for the authority in Saudi Arabia because the two holy cities are there, and they are leveraging on this to sell everybody out to the Americans. It's not just Palestine they are selling out. They're selling out anybody that disagrees with them. I don't even want to go into the aspect of the slave trade and trading in half of Africans as slaves today with the whole kafala system in Saudi Arabia. Don't even get me started. So let's go down a bit. The Ottomans sent yet another expeditionary force in Zabid in 1547. Imam al-Mutawaki Yahya Sharaf ad-Din was ruling the highlands independently. Imam Mutawakkil Yahya chose his son Ali to succeed him. The decision that infuriated the other son Al-Mukhtar ibn Yahya. Now, most of these names, I would call them slowly because I'm not an Arab speaker. But the point is that there was leadership in the north of Yemen that did not agree with those of them in the south because the Ottoman supported most of the powers in the south, and most of these guys from the south are foreigners and invaders. Okay? They later found themselves in Sana'a. But after the rule of the Ottoman, which I will fast forward a little bit, after the rule of the Ottoman, now the United Kingdom, the British were looking for local coal depot to service their steamers en route to India. It took 700 tons of coal for a round trip from Suez to Bombay. East Indian Company officials decided on Aden. So the British took interest in Yemen because of the trade in India. And at this point in time, they were, going all the way from Egypt. They were going all the way down south and trading in textile and spice and other stuff that they were buying from India. So what happened is that they were using Aden as a stop point, as a stop gap, for refueling and so on and so forth. So Aden was very important for them. So they were using it to refuel, to get coal and so on and so forth. Now the British Indian government dispatched warship under the command of Captains Stafford Bettesworth Haynes to demand compensation. Haynes bombarded Aden from warship. Why did he do this? Because there was disagreement. The Yemenis did not accept that. Why on earth are these guys here stealing our land? Why do you want Aden and you're trying to do it with at gunpoint? And they didn't agree with that. And the British set their armada to go there and pummel and bombard, Yemen and plunder it. So the British Indian government dispatched a warship under the command of Captain Stafford Bettesworth Haynes to demand compensation. Haynes bombarded Aden from his warship in January 1839. The ruler of Lahej. So where is Lahej? Formerly called Al-Hatwa, is a city and an area located between Taiz and Aden in Yemen from 18th to 20th century. So this is a place in Yemen. Who was in Aden at that time and ordered his guards to defend the port, but they failed in the face of overwhelming military and naval power. The British managed to occupy Aden and agreed to compensate the Sultan an annual payment of 6,000 riyals. The British evicted the Sultan of Lahej from Aden. And so these are the people that, these are the real Yemenis that were in charge. The British came, just like the Ottoman, who come and expel them and bring in their own puppets from abroad to help them with the administration of the land. And forced them to accept the protection. In November 1839, 5,000 tribesmen tried to retake the town but were repulsed and 200 were killed. The British realized that Aden's prosperity depended on their relations with the neighboring tribes, which required... What neighboring tribes are they referring to? Aden, meaning the government in the south, which is largely made up of foreigners masquerading as Yemenis, will never succeed without the support of the British. So, because constantly the other tribes are fighting them, they don't accept them. They are not original, they are not authentic, they are not from the land. And so the British government concluded protection and friendship of remain in the British government concluded protection and friendship treaties with 9 tribes surrounding Aden, whereas they would remain independent from British interference in their affairs as long as they do not conclude treaties with foreigners, meaning non-Arabs, colonial powers. So the other tribes they are referring to that they gave the power to continue, Lily, welcome, that they are talking about that they gave them the authority to govern or be autonomous in some way, are the people from the north. While in the south, in Aden, they continue to support them. But let's fast forward a little bit. The Ottomans later came back as well, and further down, the Idrisid Emirate and Mutawakilite Kingdom of Yemen. So this around the period of 1911, Imam Yahya Hamid Eddin al-Mutawakil was ruling the Northern Highlands independently since 1911. Now, after the Ottoman departure in 1918, he sought to recapture the lands of his Qasimid ancestors. Exactly. So Imam Mutawakil grew powerful in the north and wanted to take back the land that they stole from his ancestors. Who are the people that stole the land? The Ottomans and the Brits. So after the Ottoman departure in 1918, which is after the end of the First World War, he sought to recapture the lands of his Qasimid ancestor. He dreamt of Greater Yemen, stretching from Asir to Dofa. Asir is in modern-day Saudi Arabia, by the way. All that territory was Yemeni. Asir is in the south of Saudi Arabia. All that territory was Yemeni until the British came in and, carved out this land and gave most of it to Saudi Arabia. And Jofar as well is in the modern-day, I think, Oman. It's in the Sultanate of Oman. So Oman and most part of Saudi Arabia were all under Yemen. They were all Yemen. So let's go down. So these schemes brought him into conflict with the de facto rulers of the territories claimed, meaning the territories in the south, the Idrisid Ibn Saud. Idrisid and Ibn Saud. These are the two people he fought. So these two people, clansmen, the Idrisids that ruled the south of Yemen and the Ibn Saud that ruled the north of Yemen, or in the northern side of Yemen, which was originally part of Yemen that Mutawakil want to resuscitate the greater Yemen, going back to, the days of the Qasimid, which are his great-grandfathers and his ancestors. This was all Yemeni territory until the foreigners came in. So the south of Saudi Arabia and even Oman was part of Yemen. And Mutawakil wanted to, re-annex those places and make it greater Yemen. But what happened? If he ran into conflict with the Idrisids in the south, who are mostly, suspected as foreigners, as, stooges of, the Brits, and were brought in by the Ottomans. Some of them were from Morocco and so on and so forth. Jews from Morocco. People talk about Jews in Yemen and all that stuff. This is where it all came from. And Ibn Saud. And then the British government in Aden. So there were 3 major adversaries. The Saudis, as you see them today, the Idrisids in the south, and the British government, all ganged up against Yemen. Why? Because Yemen have refused to acquiesce. They say, this is our land. What the hell are you doing here? Who are these people you brought in the south to come and steal our territory? We are not going to accept that. So the Zaydi Imam, which are the governments in the north, did not recognize the Anglo-Ottoman border agreement of 1905 on the grounds that it was made between 2 foreign powers occupying Yemen. The border treaty effectively divided Yemen into north and south. In 1915, the British signed a treaty with the Idrisids, those of them in the south, with the Idrisids, guaranteeing their security and independence if they would fight against the Turks. So these Idrisids were used by the British to fight against the Turks in, and by the way, it's the same thing that the Saudis did. The Al Saud were used by the British as well to fight against the Turks, which later gave the British support and backing to them to steal other land from Yemen and form the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia right around the period of the 30s. But that is a conversation for another day. Exactly the same thing they did in the south of Yemen. So in 1915, against the Turks. In 1919, Imam Yahya moved southwards to liberate 9 British protectorates. The British responded by moving quickly towards Tihama and occupying Al-Hudaydah, which is the port of Hudaydah today. Then they handed it over to their Idrisis allies. So the Idrisis were the allies. The Idrisis today, they still exist today. They are still in bed with the Saudis. And if you look at what the Saudis are doing, the Saudis are bombing Yemen, not the whole of Yemen, the north of Yemen, to support the government in the south, or to give power to Abu Rabu Mansur al-Hadi, who used to be the defunct de facto leader recognized by the international community in quotes, who ran to exile later in Saudi Arabia. Because these guys are foreigners. These guys are either from Saudi or from Morocco, or the remnants or descendants of the Turks that are living in the south. They are not from the land. They came there to steal land, and this is the problem. So let's in 1919, so Imam Yahya, who is the leader of the Imamate in the north, moved southwards to liberate the 9 British protectorates. The British responded by moving quickly towards Tihama and occupying Al-Hudaydah, and then handed it over to the Idrisis allies. Imam Yahya attacked the southern protectorates. Again in 1922, the British bombed Yahya's tribal forces using aircraft to which the tribes had no effective counter. So in 1925, Imam Yahya captured Al-Hudaydah from the Idrisids. Who are these Idrisids? I keep mentioning the Mutawakil, Yahya, the Idrisids. The Idrisids are the people in the south, the tribes in the south that the British and the Saudis supported to break up Yemen in 2 halves, the north and the south. And they continue to do so. So in 1927, small Bedouin forces, mainly of Maji Confederation of the Marib, attacked Shoba and were bombed by the British and had to retreat. So the Italian Empire was the first to recognize Imam Yahya. So the game that the Italians played in the region at that time was to recognize the government in the north as against the one in the south recognized by the British. So effectively bifurcating and separating Yemen in 2 halves. So the Kingdom of Yemen at this point had its eye on annexing Aden, and Imam Yahya also had aspirations for Greater Yemen with possible help from Italy. This was right around the period of the 30s when Benito Mussolini was in power. This created a great deal of anxiety for the British, who interpreted it as a clear recognition of Imam Yahya's claim to sovereignty over Greater Yemen, which include Aden Protectorate and Asir, which is backed by the British. So the Idrisids turned to Ibn Saud. So the Idrisids turned to who? Ibn Saud. These are the same people. So the Idrisids in the south of Yemen at that time in the 30s turned to the Sauds to come and help them bomb the Northerners. Because the Northerners, the tribesmen in the north, have never recognized and accepted the powers in the south, because they claim that those people in the south are foreigners from Morocco, from Turkey, from Saudi Arabia, and some of them are even Brits that married and mixed their blood, and a lot of Jewish people that came to Yemen. So these are foreigners according to the Yemeni tribes. That these people in the south, supported by the British, are not one of us. This is what they claim. And why on earth do they have so much power now in Aden, which is the most important part of Yemen, along the banks of the Bab al-Mandab? So who are these Idrisids? These are foreigners that have come to the land, supported the British, because the British used that hub during their trade with India, when they were going and doing textile business and spice business and so on and so forth with India. So they always needed to refuel their vessels with coal. So they were using Yemen, and then supported this government because the Mutawakil and his people, which is later became the Imamate in the north, never recognized the power of those in the south. They said enough is enough. The British are here. These are foreigners. How long can we continue to be subjugated? The Ottomans were there, the Abbasid, the Umayyad. You guys continue to attack Yemen, and fight Yemen, because again at that point Yemen had the two holy sites in Islam, Mecca and Medina. All of it, all that place was under Yemen. The emergence of Al Saud family today is suspicious. By the way, set up by the British, supported by the British. So let's look at it. The Idrisids turned to Ibn Saud. Who are the Idrisids? These are the foreigners in Aden. I'm not saying all of them are foreigners, but these people, the sellouts in Aden, supported by the British, supported by the Ottoman earlier, and now supported by the Ibn Saud. Yahya's seeking help against Ibn Saud himself, and thank you, and began liquidating the authority and expressed his desire to annex those territories into his own Saudi domain. Imam Yahya demanded the return of the Idrisid dominion. The same year, a group of Hijazi liberals fled to Yemen and plotted to expel Ibn Saud from the former Hashemite kingdom of Hejaz. Now, this Hashemite kingdom of Hejaz, you're referring to modern-day Jordan, right? So, if you look at the power play between the Saudis and later what became Hejaz, Hejaz used to be part of Saudi Arabia, which later became Jordan. It is the role of the British at that point in time, that created these schisms and created this division. But let's go further down a bit, which was conquered by the Saudis. 7 years later, Ibn Saud appealed to Britain for aid. The British government sent arms and airplanes. Ibn Saud begged the British for warplanes. What? Saudi Arabia is a creation of Britain. Purely a British creation. Full stop. There's no ifs and buts and maybes. Oh my God. The British government sent arms and airplanes, and the British were anxious that Ibn Saud's financial difficulties may encourage the Italian Empire to bail him out. Ibn Saud suppressed the Assyri rebellion in 1933, after which the Idrisids fled to Sana'a. Negotiations between Imam Yahya and Ibn Saud proved fruitless. After military confrontation, meaning that the Saudis seized all the way down to Aden. They wanted to take the whole of Yemen. They believed that they had enough power at that time. The British supported them with warplanes. The British have empowered them, and they wanted to take the entirety of Yemen, and even took land from the Mutawakil and the Imamate people in the north. But again took it from the Idrisids that they came to support and wanted to claim the entirety of the land. To the extent that the Idrisids ran from the south and went to Sana'a in the north. So negotiations between Imam Yahya and Ibn Saud proved fruitless, like I said. Imam Yahya agreed to release Saudi hostages and the surrender of the Idrisids to Saudi custody. Imam Yahya ceded the 3 provinces of Najran, which is in modern-day Saudi Arabia, originally part of Yemen, Asir, and Jazan for 20 years, and signed another treaty with the British in 1934. The Imam recognized the British sovereignty over Aden. Continued recognition of, by the way, by 1934, the British were still in charge, in control of Aden. Aden is very important, guys. If you take a look at the map, Aden is on the point, is on the peak, is on the mouth of the Bab al-Mandab. This is why they're fighting over it, because it's the corridor, it's the inlet basically to the Red Sea and the outlet to the Indian Ocean. Very strategic. This is why you see the Americans, the Brits, and everybody bombing Yemen and targeting countries like Somalia, because both of them occupy that corridor on the Bab al-Mandab. So Yahya submitted to the British demands out of fear of Al-Hudaydah, because Al-Hudaydah is more or less in proximity to the north, and Imam Yahya wanted to keep Al-Hudaydah and signed all these agreements with the Saudis, because they were having support from the Brits and bombing his palace. They were bombing everywhere in Yemen. The Saudis were doing it with the support of Britain in 1933. It goes back to the 20s. So it didn't start today. When Mohammed bin Salman goes there to slaughter 700,000 Yemenis, he's doing it on the historical basis. This has always been what the Saudis have been doing to the Yemenis, and even to Oman at a certain point, and stole territories from them, including the provinces of Najran, Asir, and Jazan. They are Yemeni territory. I'm talking about from the the partition or the drawing up of the borders in 1909 or 1908. All these places are territories that were originally part of Yemen after those borders were drawn, and the Saudis took with the support of Britain in 33 and 34, because the Saudis came to the south claiming to come to help the Idrisids, who are basically sellouts from the beginning. These were people that were brought in by the Turks, most of them Jews from Morocco, and so on and so forth, occupying the south. The people that occupy the power in the south today are mostly from foreigners from Morocco, some Jews, and so on and so forth. And this is why you see the likes of Israel and Saudi Arabia and Britain ganging up together in so many cases. You guys, it's deeper than that. There's a lot of emotion running around in the Middle East, thinking that it's because the Saudis are Muslims that somehow they are your friends. They are Yehudi. They are worse than the Yehud. And you guys are playing with fire. You don't even know yet. See what they're selling the Palestinians for bread. And you can they are on par with the Zionists. You're talking about they are on par with the Israelis. The Israelis are learning where these guys are. These guys hiding under the cloak that, oh, they are Muslims, you see, they are just like us. No, they are not. They are not. Saudi Arabia is just like intelligence, the eyes and the ear of Britain and America in the region. So if you give them if you surrender to them, they will spy on you. They are spying. The Saudis are doing exactly the same thing the Israelis are doing in the region. But doing it to their own cousins. Like they did to the Idrisids, who trusted them to come and fight against Imam Mutawakil and the government, the imamate in the north, and participated in the partitioning and the division of Yemen into two halves, the north and the south, and continue to support the government in Aden in the south. I'm not speaking from my backside. This is the fact. But there's a lot of emotion running around, and they think, oh, because they are Muslims, somehow they are. No, the Saudis are not your friend. And don't tell me I have to say the Saudi government. No, this is not about, this is Saudi Arabia. And this goes back again, I say, to the partition plan, the division of the area around 1909, continuing until the Al Sauds, also intervened in the early 1920s until 1933 and 1934, where they took Najran, Asir, and Jazan. They took it from Yemen. And who are the people that helped the Saudis to do most of these fightings to take territory from both Oman and Yemen? Is Britain. Britain created Saudi Arabia. Britain created Jordan. So when you see them doing that to Yemen today, it is not a surprise. It's historical. The Saudis did not just wake up and start attacking Yemen. This is what their fathers and their forefathers have done to Yemen. Because they don't agree with the people in the north. They see them as, they're not like, who are these people? They don't have money. They are roaches. This is what they think about them. People talk about the idea of, caste system. It is endemic. This is the main thing in Saudi Arabia. They see themselves at the top, and they even see the Egyptians and the Yemenis and every other person that is not like them as bottom feeders. It is very, 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 how would I say? It's based on caste, and it's very racist. The system in Saudi Arabia. Just because, you can go there and work as a cleaner and whatever and make some money does not make them good people. I'm talking about top to bottom in Saudi Arabia, including most of their people. And this is why they're discriminating against you that are their cousins. So what am I supposed to do? As a black man, if I go there, I'm basically a slave. And this is why they're selling everybody. You guys have to be careful to think that, oh, just because they claim to be Muslims, that they are, no, they are not on your side. I don't care what your feelings tell you. I don't give a shit. I'm not looking for friends. I'm not looking to please you as, oh, the guy's causing division. This is the fact. This is the fact. The reason why you're having this today in Syria, in Yemen, the bombing of Iraq. American planes went to Iraq and removed Saddam. They were flying from Jeddah. None of you is willing to talk about it. They were flying from Jeddah. They were not even flying from Iran. They were not flying from Israel. Those planes were flying from Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. The GCC gave a green light. They signed the death warrant of Gaddafi. It was Saudi Arabia. This is the politics. Why it's created by the Brits and controlled by the Americans. BlackRock have huge stake in Aramco and other projects in Saudi Arabia. The Yankees control the Saudi. Right now, it was the Brits. So this is, even if you look at the history of the Anglo-American oil company that both took, had stakes in Iran until they were kicked out after 79. And this is why they removed the Shah, because the Iranians wanted freedom. They wanted sovereignty. The Saudis say, you can do with us whatever you want as long as you allow this family to be in power. So this is what they did. And if you go further down a bit again, the period of the two states, you see the republic in the south and the imamate in the north. Until the unification in 1990, the two governments reached a full agreement on the point of governing Yemen. The countries were merged on 22nd of May 1990 with Salah, which is a guy I know very well. I've known Ali Abdullah Salah since 2008 or 9. Growing up as a kid, I've known Ali Abdullah Salah. Not a lot of people know him. If you know him, write it in the comment section. How many of you know Ali Abdullah Salah? Junior high. I've known him since junior high. How many of you know Ali Abdullah Salah? Write one in the comment section if you know him. Go ahead. Go ahead. If you know Ali Abdullah Salah. So Ali Abdullah Salah once described Yemen, ruling Yemen, as dancing on the head of snakes. After the unification in 1990, Ali Abdullah Salah became the president of Yemen. And the president of South Yemen at that time was Ali Salim al-Baid, who became the vice president, a unified parliament. But the fighting did not stop. So after the invasion of Kuwait, the crisis in 1990 and 1991, Yemen abstained. By the way, this was after the whole Iraq and Kuwait stuff. America wanted to go to Kuwait, to go to Iraq, to bomb Iraq. The Yemenis did not agree with it. The Yemeni voted against it in the UN General Assembly. And what happened? Saudi Arabia sanctioned them and began to bomb them. Oh my God. America wanted to go to war in Iraq. Yemen voted against it, taking a political stance against an attack on their cousins in Iraq. The Saudis were angry and sanctioned Yemen for refusing to fall in line with the Americans. And again, this has been the pattern. Are you surprised today that they are Jesus? No, it has always been the pattern. This is Saudi Arabia. This is the structure created. And the family are working with the CIA. They are working with the MI6. They are in collaboration with these authorities in order for them to preserve political power. This is Saudi Arabia. This is the only thing you need to know today. The idea that they are your cousins and brothers because they are Muslim, you are wrong. And this is why a lot of people don't want to go into it, because it's easier to target this person than this person. And this is worse than this. Or they are both on the same level. Two of them are on the same level. Following the riots of... so let's look at what happened. After the invasion of Kuwait, crisis in 1990, Yemen's president opposed military intervention from non-Arab states. As a member of the United Nations Security Council for 1990 and 1991, Yemen abstained on a number of UN Security Council resolutions concerning Iraq and Kuwait, meaning they were not interested in seeing George Bush Sr. go to Iraq, and voted against the use of force resolution. The vote outraged the US, but the US didn't do anything to Yemen. Saudi Arabia expelled 800,000 Yemenis in 1990 and 1991 to punish Yemen for the opposition to the war against Iraq. I'll repeat that one more time. Yemen, as a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council between 1990 and 1991, after the Kuwait crisis, America was locked and loaded, ready to go to Iraq. Yemen voted against America using force against Iraq. America was not happy with this, contacted the Saudis to punish Yemen. Saudi Arabia expelled 800,000 Yemenis. Should I say it again? Okay. The Yemenis are human beings too, right? They are. And the people enslaving them and beating them up every time since the 20s is Saudi Arabia. All right, let's continue the conversation. Okay. Saudi Arabia expelled 800,000 Yemenis in 1990 and 1991 to punish Yemen for its opposition to the war against Iraq. Now, following the food riots in the major towns in 1992, a coalition government made up of the ruling parties from the former Yemeni states were formed in 1993. However, Vice President al-Bade withdrew to Aden in August 1993 and said he would not return to the government until his grievances were addressed. The reason why the south of Yemen is behaving this way is because they have the support from the Saudis. And most of again, I go back to the history. The south of Yemen was governed by the Ottoman. It was where the power base of the Brits were when they were using that. But these people, they are minorities from abroad. They are not real Yemenis. These guys are descendants of Ottomans and people, Jews from Morocco and so on and so forth. And this is why you hear of, Jews from Yemen. Most of them came from the south. And how did they end up there? From Egypt. Some of them came from Morocco. They came from Turkey. They came from, all these areas around Palestine. These are immigrants. All of them immigrants, descendants of the British. So they mixed their blood with a lot of the tribal people and they formed some sort of identity. And Saudi Arabia and Britain and all of them supporting the government in South Yemen as against the imamate in the north. This is why at the point in the 50s, you have two parallel governments, one in the south and one in the north. The imamate in the north and the Republic of Yemen in the south. Am I making sense? Yes. Write one in the comment section if you think I'm smart. Let's go. Let's go. Yes. Yeah, I'm excited. These are the kind of conversations that give me chills down my spine. It's very, I don't really care about pleasing people emotionally. I'm not really that kind of person. I just call it out for what it is. I'm very consistent in what I believe, from Syria to Israel to Palestine to Saudi Arabia to the UAE to Yemen to Sudan. Consistency is the key. I don't know how to lie to make friends. The day I start doing that, maybe I should leave the app. And there's a lot of people that don't like this topic because it's inconvenient. Sav is calling out one Arab, one of our own. Instead of focusing on the Jews and focusing on the Zionists, he's talking about an Arab from Saudi Arabia that has caused more problem in the region or equally more problem as the Israelis. He is calling his name. Why? He's trying to sow a seed of discord and division. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. The pain and the suffering that the Palestinians are suffering today, some part of it come from these guys. And there was a report last year, whether true or not, that the Saudis sent bed sheets and other supplies to Yemen and bugged them, with devices in order to collect information for Israel. Why? The Gazans are going to trust them. These are our brothers. These are Arabs. These are Muslims. The two holy cities in Mecca and Medina are in Saudi Arabia. So why can't we trust them? If they give us anything, it means they love us. No, they don't. Absolutely not. They will sell you for a loaf of bread. And most of them are Yehudi. They have Yehudi blood. This is who they are. Now, the accord between the North and Southern leaders was signed in Amman on 20th February 94, but this could not stop the civil war. So the civil war went on in Yemen, defeat of the Southern armed forces and the flight into exile of many Yemeni Socialist Party leaders. So during the fight between the North and the South was defeated, and most of their leaders ran to Saudi Arabia as usual. Because the Saudis actively aided the South during the conflict, because they don't like the other ones, they prefer the ones with European blood. So they supported them. Just think about it. Saudi Arabia supporting Israel today. Is it a surprise to you? The Saudis also supported the government in southern Yemen, people of European blood and Turkic blood and from Morocco and Jews that were creating problems and trying to divide the country. Saudi Arabia supported them because the Brits created Saudi Arabia, and it's organic, it's natural for them to do so, to support other outsiders that are like them. These guys are imposters. So Salah became Yemen's first direct elected president in 1999 presidential elections, winning 96.2% of the vote. The only other candidate, Najib Katan al-Shaabi, was the son of Katan Mohammed al-Shaabi, the former president of South Yemen, though a member of Salah's General People's Congress, the GPC party. Najib ran as an independent. Yeah. And what happened? When the unification happened and the North became more powerful again, historically this has always been the case. When the North became more powerful, welcome.
Oh my God, I know damn well this ain't your topic, bro.
This is exactly what I want to talk about. Because a lot
Oh
of your
my,
people are scared of this topic. And I love to talk about this topic. You know why? Because, again, I was actually evaluating and looking at the history.
how did I get set up in this, man? Wallah, how'd I wanted to avoid drama and only battle. And this is his topic, bro?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is interesting. You would love to learn from,
Learn.
yes, learn.
I'm
That's
here
what I
to
said.
teach you.
About Yemen.
Bro, remove this green screen while we battle, bro. I can't be a part of this.
Why not?
You're comparing a Zayo to a Muslim, bro.
Yeah, but that's the mistake. I'm comparing him to Mohammed bin Salman.
Yeah, but from a Muslim lens, I have to, you know what I mean? It's like, this is like blasphemous almost.
You think he's a Muslim? You think he has humanity and
Yeah.
compassion for his cousins?
Here's the thing about Islam, it's like, you could be a bad Muslim,
And be
but
accepted.
still be a Muslim. Even if I'm not saying, listen, me personally, I don't defend dude, but I know you're not gonna compare him to Satan Yahoo. That's crazy.
They are both equally wicked. Look, I don't like most of these Jews in Israel. I said it clearly. But who's supporting them? This guy on the
Oh, yeah.
top. That's what I said. Should I say it again?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
say that again.
I don't like most of these Jews in Israel. That's what I said.
How the hell you can say shit like that? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
because I live in Nigeria. I live on a farm. I don't work for the banks. I don't give a shit. This is why I'm not bound to be politically correct. It's easier. Yeah, they don't have any control over me because again, I live on the farm and rear my goods, so I'm free to speak my mind the way I see fit.
Dude, the thing is, bro, you're gonna cause a lot of controversy with this. I'm telling all the Salafis right now, do not go and fight this because you're gonna end up fighting a bunch of liberals and it's gonna be crazy. Don't enter. This is gonna be, man.
What exactly is? Here's the thing,
Sad.
right? It's did you? I heard what you said. You said, yeah, he's bad, but he's still a Muslim. That's what you said.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't even think like you can compare the two. One of them is starving children, dude.
700,000 children and men and women killed in Yemen by MBS. And the
Say that
pain and the
again.
suffering of the Palestinian people, he is enabling it as well. So why is he a good guy? He's not, in my eyes.
Mute this Chelb. Guys, mute
No.
this Chelb Transformers.
Yeah, I know this is very controversial, and it's easier for me to host this topic because, again, like I said, I'm, I'm interested in finding out what I'm looking for.
Do you think because you're a Christian, you'll have a Muslim and a Jewish man up there and like you can do that because you're Christian?
Yeah, I think you're wrong about that because most Christians are even worse than some of these people. Just because I'm a Christian does not make it easier for me to do this. You think I'm just going to randomly defend people like Mike Huckabee and even people from my own? I have a cousin that's a priest. I don't agree with him. He blocked me. This is not the way I function. I think differently. I think differently in the sense of the political side of it. And I understand this is very emotional for a lot of people. when it comes to their religion. And I also would go to every land to defend my religion. But if somebody from my faith, my Catholic priest, and anybody is doing something wrong and think it's okay to unalive people, I don't agree
Yes,
with you.
yes, yes, feminist. Of course it's haram. What are you talking about? What kind of question is that? Of course it's haram. Because the thing is you're comparing two people, one whose religious views or I should not have taken this battle, dude. I gotta get out of here before I get in. I'm gonna get like this is gonna end up so bad.
No problem. I mean, if you want to end the stream now, you want, because if you end it, I'm going to continue my topic about Yemen and what he did. But maybe when I don't have the green screen, we can battle again. But I was in the middle of talking about this topic.
You just remove it and we can talk about it.
Uh-uh. We no, no, doc. I'm gonna
You
keep
know,
it.
but by the way, Sav, you know why you posted this comfortably?
Why?
Because the liberals in my community allowed you to feel this
I'm
comfort in posting.
I'm not a
Guys,
liberal.
can we
I'm
snipe? Can we
I'm not a
snipe?
liberal. I don't consider myself. I'm very conservative.
I'm talking about the
Yeah.
liberals. I'm talking about the liberals in my community.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. I understand that there are different strands of thought. There's some that are more liberal, and others are saying, well, it's, they see this conflict
Sav,
and the whole struggle as intrinsically religious. Yeah, you
Sav,
can. Yeah.
Sav, how are you comparing a man who stole land to a man that didn't steal land? A man that bombed maybe like 6 different countries in the past 2 years, and a man who intentionally starves children.
Yeah, the essence of this is to provoke a conversation and to ignite a conversation about people that are hiding under the cloak of we are your cousins and doing. Look, by the way, if you ask me my opinion, I think this
Hey,
is where.
mute this guy. I don't like him. Abdul Qadir, this guy. I don't like anything about this account. Actually, I'm just gonna block it. I don't want accounts like this in my life.
Yeah. So the essence of this is to ignite and provoke a conversation because there's this degree of comfort and reticence, if you like, to say, oh, well, this is not what we want at this point. It's creating division. Why would anybody try to compare? In my head, this is where it was. But
You know,
again,
actually, a part of me is happy you did this, Sav, because I've been fighting my community and about something similar to this, and I think that they allow this. They deserve this.
okay,
Maybe they agree. That's the problem.
most of them don't agree. I guess most of them don't agree with it. But I mean,
I think
is that
some liberals would agree with this.
okay?
Guys, would you say some people agree with this from the liberals?
I mean, when you mean liberals, who are you referring to? I mean, you mean like those that are
Guys,
sort
no
of
more rows.
those are sort of political in their views than religious. Is that what you mean by liberal?
No, I'm talking about religiously liberal. I don't think, I'm not talking about politics here. I don't really care about politics. I don't even know like, I don't even agree with politics. I'm
Yeah,
saying,
I mean,
I'm talking about religiously liberal people, Muslims who are liberal. They will look at this and they might cheer you on. They might say, yes, have
they
talk
don't have to
about
agree. They don't have to agree with me. Most of them probably don't agree with me. But again, I'm trying to ignite the conversation. I'm trying to provoke
what
thought, if you like.
conversation are you looking? What
Yeah,
conversation are you
because
looking
again, this was in context of Yemen, historical context in with what the Saudis have done in Yemen, starting from 1864. That's what I was looking at, including the recent 7 years war. It's not the first
So
time they
what are
did it.
you saying? What are you saying happened in Yemen that makes this like even a conversation?
Yeah, I'm saying that the Saudis, in fact, that Saudi Arabia is the creation of Britain, and that the system in Saudi Arabia have supported different wars in the region. In fact, look at the war against Iraq. Most of the American planes that were flying to bomb Iraq in 91 or thereabout were coming from Jeddah.
Wait, say that last part again.
Most of the US planes that were bombing Iraq right around the period of the first Gulf War were flying from Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia, because Yemen opposed the war, Saudi Arabia expelled 800,000 Yemenis, supported the government in the south, and bombed the shit out of Yemen. That is one. The taking out of Gaddafi, the GCC, this leadership in Saudi Arabia signed the death warrant of Gaddafi. This is just my political
They
viewpoint.
signed what? They signed what?
Yeah, they did. There was a meeting, and the GCC, I said, signed the death warrant, meaning that they gave a green light to NATO to remove Gaddafi. I mean, NATO would have done it regardless, but it's just the gesture. And we can talk about, the period of the Republic in Yemen in the south and the Imamate in the north and the role they played.
Sorry, hold on, man. Hold on. You said that they signed what for Libya?
I said that the GCC met and approved for NATO to attack Libya. I mean, NATO would have done it regardless, but it's the political stance. The Gulf Cooperation countries, led by Saudi Arabia.
I know what the GCC is. Prove it, though.
I mean, a quick Google search will show you that. Because you want me to show you on my screen right now while we're playing the game?
Yeah, I want you to pull it up.
Okay, I'm going to do a video on it with sources and tag you. How about that on my story? Yeah, and that's not the only one. I look at the system there, and by the way, I'm not saying that both of them are the same, but this is basically to draw attention to this guy in the region and the role he's been playing.
Why are you drawing attention to him right now? Like, what benefit will we get out of that?
Yeah, because I want to have a conversation about what the Saudis are doing both in the region and in Africa.
Say it again.
Because I'm calling attention to what the Saudis are doing in your region and in Africa. And it's not just them, the Emiratis as well.
What are they doing?
Oh, Sudan is a classical example. Mauritania is another one. And,
No, you said they were doing something in Israel, right?
No, I never said Israel. I said in your region.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
What are they doing in Sudan?
Western Asia. We can go back to the war in Yemen. Most of the RSF were brought in by the Saudis and the Emiratis to fight for money. Train them, arm them to the teeth, and now they are using them to plunder gold in Darfur. Thank you, research. Using them to plunder gold in the Darfur region. And right now they're giving them drones, it's all for profit. And I mean, this is the political side I see of it. And by the way, I respect what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. Oh my God, what happened to my screen? My screen, I don't know, man. I think it's can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you now.
Yeah, but it's kind of warped. I'm on kind of a bigger screen than you here, so yeah, so it's basically a conversation. But I was basically talking about Yemen and giving like a background to what the Yemenis have been going through and the role of regional powers. Not just the Saudis, by the way, the Brits. And the Brits, anytime they bomb, they go and use bases from Saudi Arabia. And I wanted to have that conversation with nobody on the panel. It's just me doing a 30 minutes to 1 hour section talking about it. Yeah. So I'm going to wrap it up really quickly. Thank you so much, guys. So in 2005, at least 36 people were across. This was, okay, sorry. I want to take you back to how the whole stuff started and aligned, even with the insurgency that started around the period of the year 2000. In October 2017, U.S. personnel died after a suicide attack on a U.S. naval vessel in Aden, which was subsequently blamed on Al-Qaeda after September 11th. attack on the United States, President Saleh assured the U.S. President George Bush that Yemen was a partner in his war on terror. In 2001, there was violence surrounding a referendum which apparently supported extending Saleh's rule. Yeah, they've had their fair share of problem with a lot of fighting and all of that. And at the end of the day, the instability that started around 2011 as well can be properly explained by the importance of Yemen. People say Yemen is one of the poorest countries on earth and so on and so forth, but it's in a very strategic place. So the Yemen crisis began with the 2011-2012 revolution, in quotes, when President Ali Abdullah Saleh, who led Yemen for more than 2 decades, after Saleh left office in early 2012 as part of the mediated agreement between Yemeni government and opposition group, the government led by Saleh's former vice president, Abu Rabu Mansur al-Hadi. Now, who's this guy? This is a client of the Saudis. He calls himself Field Marshal, Abu Rabu Mansur al-Hadi. Later, the Houthis stepped in because their leader, Abdul Malik al-Houthi, who was also unalive, I think, around 2014 or thereabout, 2004, I think. In 2014, the Houthis fighters swept into the capital, Sana'a, and forced Hadi to negotiate a unity government with other political factions. The rebels continued to apply pressure on the weakened government until his presidential palace and private residence came under attack from the militant group. Hadi resigned along with his ministers in January 2015. The following month, the Houthis declared themselves in control of government, dissolving parliament and installing an interim revolutionary committee led by Mohammed Ali al-Houthi, the cousin of the Houthi leader Abdul Malik al-Houthi. However, Hadi escaped to Aden, where he declared he remains Yemen's legitimate president, proclaimed the country's temporary capital as Aden, and continued. So all this continued until the Saudi intervention around the period of 2015. This was when the Saudis intervened and continued to bomb until 2022. So the reason I gave you guys this lowdown for Yemen in particular, so I'm doing a case study, Yemen. I can talk about Syria, I can talk about Iraq, I can talk about what they did in Lebanon, kidnapped the prime minister, Saad Hariri, and kept him under house arrest. Who did it? Mohammed bin Salman, the Saudi government. So when somebody is telling me, oh, how can you compare a Muslim with a Yahudi that is unaliving people? Well, these two guys are working together. This is what I need to tell you. And yeah, this is where I draw a conclusion to this first part of my conversation about Saudi Arabia. I'll talk about the UAE as well. And some people are saying, oh, this is not beneficial, it's causing division, yada, yada, yada. I hear this all the time. I hear this all the time. So let's give the Saudis a pass. Why? Because they're Muslims, right? Let's give them a pass. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to end the live.